Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, investors. This is Scott Carson, and welcome to the show. We've got a very special guest, a buddy of mine that I have, looking back, have known almost 15, actually known for over 15 years now.
Mhm.
And got to know the guy years ago. He's a realtor in San Antonio. He was starting to dabble in this kind of short sale market now. And over the last 15 years, he's done an amazing job as becoming a market leader and the go-to guy, not only for investors and other realtors that have issues, but also being the tall short sale guy is what he's known for there in San Antonio. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Boggsy the Man is his name. He likes, no, it's my buddy Josh Boggs here from San Antonio. What is going on, Josh? How are you doing today? Are you out exposing homes today?
I'm exposing everybody's homes, bro. You know how I roll it with it, dude. It's so good to see you again and be on your podcast. And by the way, congrats on your huge success with it. I love your podcast. Every time I get in the car, I try to hit one of two episodes, depending how long I'm driving. But you always produce amazing content. And yes, 15 years. Wow. It's been a hell of a ride, and I've just loved your success and your journey. So, huge congrats, brother.
Well, same to you. I mean, you started off doing short sales, being a realtor, doing some other things, stuff like that. We'll talk about your Marvel origin story and stuff like that. But
Ah.
but those that are listening today, we can talk about that. But let's talk about the San Antonio market. Let's give our folks something to chew on here. Now, is it doom and gloom? Are you excited about what's going on in the San Antonio market right now?
Oh man, well, I never see doom and gloom. The market is so exciting, regardless of a seller's market or buyer's market, because you just got to figure out the strategy to win, right? And
Yeah.
so, and thankfully, we've understood when the market has gone down and it becomes more of a buyer's market. We found a pretty good upside on taking advantage of helping homeowners out from underneath foreclosure situations, things like that. So, I would say we needed a market correction. Now, San Antonio never blew up like Austin did or some of the other bigger markets, but we are definitely seeing some correction here. And I think that also because of the pandemic and then the sellers market that just grossly just fueled that fire afterwards, we had the record amount of agents here in San Antonio that jumped into the business and really made some really bad moves, right? We saw some really dumb things going on. And so I think we're
Okay.
having,
What kind of dumb things did you see? You got to dive into that. You can't leave us
okay.
cliffhanging with that.
Well, I'll give you one example that I saw for sure, right? Um, we were seeing buyers that were going in throwing $100,000 cash over appraisal prices on some of these homes, and they were in areas where it was like there's no way that was ever gonna hold that equity position, right? And so we saw people liquidate their savings to do this to get a home because their agent told them, guys, you got to do this. This is the only way to do it, right? And at the same time, we're telling our clients like, hey, don't get into this. You know what? If you don't need to buy something right now, actually don't buy, right? Even though interest rates are good, we get it. So that's one thing we've seen, and now it's rolling back around where those same agents that walk those people into some really bad situations, they're sending their clients to us because guess what? Unfortunately, bad things happen to people, right? They lose their jobs, they have medical issues, and they're like, "I'm strapped. Now the interest rate or the taxes have gone up, and the insurance has gone up, and I can't afford it, and I'm falling behind. What can we do?" Right?
This is
So,
San Antonio, not San Diego, right? With 100K. I
right,
mean, that's
dude.
crazy, man.
Well, a lot of buyers that came in from California were the ones that actually had the money to do it, and they were dropping money, and so people were like, "This is awesome." Now we didn't see what Austin did. I think Austin appreciated like 28%. I mean, you're
Yeah.
closer to that, right? In 1 year, that's insane. We saw about 12 to 13%, and that was still wildly high for us because on average, San Antonio appreciates anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5% annually, right? So we all are now feeling the hangover after the party, right? So that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's definitely seen some correction here in Austin. My neighbor across the street, it took him 2 years to get a house approved for, and he bid at the peak of the market, and he's lost about $50,000 in value. That's about a 10% correction here, but he's bought it to live in. It's not a fix and flip thing kind of thing. And so I'm like, listen, your value will go back up. It's just a matter of it. You bought at the peak. It's going to be a correction for a while, and then go up from there. But I think a lot of markets, based on what we see, are correcting. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? We had such a huge price increase, and now with interest rates being where they're at, the cooling off the markets, there's a lot of sellers, more sellers, so more than there are buyers right now. So where are you seeing that, like inventory wise in San Antonio these days? Did you see months of inventory start to creep up to where, I mean, opposite where it was for a while, where things are moving pretty fast, or what?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because San Antonio for a while we were like 3 week inventory. It was just stupid. And now, right now, on average, if you look at the entire MLS for the Sabor market, San Antonio market, you're looking at 7.5 months of inventory, right? So that's more of a healthier market. But the inventory levels, and I think because buyers are sitting on the sidelines because they're still remembering the days of 2.5% interest rates and things like that. There, a lot of buyers like, man, y'all, this 6.5% rates, I'm not buying it. I'm going to sit on the side. And then sellers that need to sell, relocation, job stuff, family, whatever, they're adding to that inventory, and we're at higher levels of inventory in San Antonio than we have been since I think 2019.
Mm.
So we've got a lot of buyer options right now.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor, Josh? Just move your mic down just a little bit.
Oh
It's
way.
getting it's some sharp feedback there. Still great audio, but just when you're getting excited, it's sparking a
Oh,
little bit there. So
sorry
you're
about that.
no, you're good. See, that's better. There we go. We don't have
Okay.
so 7.5 months. Yeah, that's about what we saw here in Austin. Less than a month, and now it's about 7 months. But the sales velocity is still about the same. It's still about the same as much as stuff is turning compared to a year ago. Where do you see that in San Antonio?
Oh,
Stuff.
you know what? Yeah, and I pulled up some stats on that because we have not seen the same sales activity. In fact, we've had lower transactions in 2024. We've had lower transactions than we ever had before. So more agents, less transactions. So the competition was really heavy. And now what we're seeing here, and I don't have the exact stats pulled up, and I wish I would have done that because you're right. I wanted to look at the trending sites on activity, but I do know this because I was just on a talking on another thing about building in San Antonio, new builds. And right now, 3 out of 4 transactions have been new builds this year alone. And that's also a problem when you take some of these really cheap, horrific quality builders and they are inflating their prices to build in their rate buy downs and paying for closing costs and things like that. And then also 6% realtor bonuses on some of these at $235,000 homes, Scott. I'm like, what? And these realtors are still not talking to their clients about this. And I go, there was a lawsuit that really required them to have a buyer's rep agreement stating that they're approving this. I don't know how some of these agents are still getting away with doing this because I would, as somebody who would be buying, I'm like, wait a second, you're making $30,000 on a $230,000 home. Well, how does that affect me, right? But these people aren't asking that question, and now they're going to start seeing that because Lennar just mentioned, and I think you probably saw this too. Nationwide, they're losing so much money, they're going to have to cut these incentives. And if they are doing it, number two builder in the U.S., D.R. Horton, to follow, you're going to start seeing that trend where people are like, oh wow, I can't afford to buy new builds anymore, right? And then those values are going to still go down even further.
Yeah, well, we've seen that where, especially like D.R. Horton, some of those where they own the mortgage company, the title company, everything along the way, they can give you a 4% interest rate or lower because they'll hold the paper for a year and looking to sell it all off
That's
because they
right.
originated. And then they're fine. Oh, yeah, we'll inflate the value. We're the bank, we'll give you, we'll pay 9%, commissions or whatever, 6% to a buyer's rep and, jack up all these incentives. And then, well, you're underwater. Well, it's not us. We sold it off and we've seen that. I actually have D.R. Horton's corporate office right across the street from me here. I can see them from when I get literally from my window right here.
No
Okay.
kidding. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny. I actually know the secondary sales rep over there with their stuff like, oh no, we don't want to sell any of our non-performing stuff off. Well, I start seeing it popping up, and so
Aha.
that leads me to the next end. So you're seeing some people struggling. Are you starting to get more phone calls on the distress stuff aside, the short sale side of business that you have made a name for yourself over the years there in San Antonio?
Oh yeah, and we're very blessed because obviously been doing short sales for 16 years. We over 654 of them to date that we've successfully
Wow.
closed, and so we're by far the best, most experienced short sale team here. We've already had, I counted this out since January. I've already had 116 short sale consultations this year alone.
Wow.
2024, I had 30. There's 74 active short sales on the market if you look at them from a whole. And our team has about 26% of it. So what we're seeing is when you go and look at the actives of short sales now, this in October versus where it was in June, there was like maybe 15, right? And we had almost all of them. So what we're starting to see is agents that don't have any deals, and I'm getting this a lot. They have no deals, so they say, "Hey, I'm going to learn short sales," and then they call me saying, "Hey, can you walk me through my short sale deal?" Right? And we're like, "Unfortunately, that's our business model, and we specialize in it. So no, we can't do that. But we are doing classes now to teach some of these agents at least the basics, right?
Hmm.
Trying to help them out. But yes, to answer your question, yes, they're going up.
Yeah, there's 340 properties in Bexar County alone set to go to foreclosure. That's residential and commercial here in the next couple days, actually the first Tuesday of the month,
That's
based
right.
off of the Roddy's foreclosure list that I had pulled up here.
Yep, that
So,
would be correct.
yep, I mean that's the thing is you got some stuff there. Great market, a lot of growth going on in San Antonio too, but still a lot of more distress. I mean, because things are lagging. People are getting stuck selling houses that they overpaid for, right?
You know what, Scott, and I would wonder, and this is something you would be more, better than I would, because I'd love to track it. Because if you look at the San Antonio foreclosure rate, we're about on average. We
Yep.
haven't gone up or down. The 340, 330 a month, that's on average. But what we don't see is all the cans that have been kicked down the road with multiple loan modifications and forbearance issues. And the HUD partial claims are a huge one we're seeing in San Antonio because FHA loans are a monster deal for San Antonio. Well, Bexar County they just came out because I was in Dallas for the five-star conference and I was arguing with Fannie and Freddie because they were like, well, we're not seeing any kind of depreciation down there in Bexar County. And then sure enough, the very next day I left the thing, it said Bexar County is one of the number one worst performing counties for non performing notes, right? FHA put that out there. So I said, huh.
Yeah, because FHA's got a 10.6% default rate on the FHA. VA's at just under 5%. That's nationwide. And yes, San Antonio's going to have a higher rate because it's you got a higher concentration there with all the military and the
Mhm.
first-time home buyers in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, which is why the VA just rolled out their HUD partial as well. If you guys didn't see that too, that just came out. So, and that was probably a good idea. But the way they're promoting it is they're allowing VA veteran buyers to roll back up to 22% of their loan amount in arrears onto their loan. That's wild to me if you think about that. Like if they could be up to 22% and then in delinquency on their UPB, and then they're still putting that as a silent, lien on their property, that's a lot of years for that equity to catch up. That's what I was hearing from
Wow.
all the big wigs in Dallas. So I thought that was an interesting.
That's pretty crazy, allowing people to be in that big a default or who haven't been paying for a while, you know, 22%. Wow. That is crazy.
I know
That's
I need to verify that because when they said it, it made no sense. I actually recorded it. I went back to talk to the girl from Freedom Mortgage about it, and she goes, "Look, we haven't put the stats on there yet, but that's what the VA handbook is coming down. Those are the new requirements coming down." I go, "That makes no sense."
yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it really is. Like, think about that. It's wow. Who gets paid on those? Like, if they weren't making payments for 2 years and then they throw it on as a second, where does the money go on that? How do the servicers make money?
Well, I think you got to throw a lot of that back to the Biden administration, where we found out the Biden administration was making all these mortgage payments to those government-backed loans, FHA, VA, to avoid the numbers looking so bad. And now, since they're no longer in auction and Trump ended that, they've got to come up like, oh shit, we got to clean up another mess here.
That makes sense. Yeah,
You
try to
know?
sweep it under the rug again somehow.
Yeah, because if you have a 10% default rate, that throws us back into 2008 numbers again, default stuff. That leads to huge foreclosures, especially in Texas, where it's the fastest in the country. That leaves like an apocalypse thing
It
aspect of
really
things.
does. And that's what's scary for us because we've already had a couple, like we've got one right now, and I'm arguing with the VA. Boy, I'd love to blast them and Freedom Mortgage because they still want to bulldoze on foreclosure, even though in this particular neighborhood, these new builds were selling for 440 3 years ago. They're worth only 330 now, but they have one jackass appraiser comes in and goes, "Oh, it's worth 460." You go, "What? How did it appreciate in 3 years that way?" And they're just wanting to bulldoze, and we've sent them two other property reports and everything, and they're just not waking up to the fact that they're going to see numerous files in that area just drop off, right? And it's a little scary. I don't think we're ever in '08, Scott, right? It's not going to be an '08 deal, right?
No, no. But we are seeing more distress stuff, and it's finally stuff is starting to shake out. When banks start sending me lists of what they call VA and FHA early buyouts, where they're at lower interest rates, below market rates, so they're losing money on that money. It's been sitting in a 3% rates where they were pulling them out of funds and
Yep.
looking to sell that stuff off. That tells you something like that. Not only are banks distressed and lenders distressed, but they've got to get it off the portfolio because they're losing money with the rates being at 6%, which would be making versus at 3 or 4.
Makes
You
sense.
know, and there's equity in some of these things, but when you talk about new builds like that, where there's not really new equity for a while with markets dropping, yeah, they're going to end up owning those for a while. They're going to take a loss one way or another.
Hmm.
Sad.
Which you might see more business from that from your side, right? Because I know right now the big guys, Fannie, Freddie, and VA right now have been sort of just blindly foreclosing, and we're like, guys, you're going to end up having to deal with this mess. It's going to start piling up here soon, and I think they're starting to catch on now.
Yeah, yeah, I think they are too, definitely. Because we see stuff 6 to 12 months before it ever hits the market for the most part. So
Hmm.
that's why I say expect definitely a very busy end of Q1 and very busy Q2 across the country in a lot of cases, especially in the faster foreclosure states. If you're in a longer state, yeah, they can kick the can down the road. But here in Texas, we don't have that luxury. Um,
No.
now,
Mm-mm.
now, where are you seeing San Antonio growing? San Antonio, I think, it gets compared to Austin. But San Antonio, I think, has a higher population, but San Antonio did a much better job of planning with the inner and outer loops and everything like that. The 410 loop and then the 16 to 4 exterior loop and how it's growing. Where's the growth going on in San Antonio? Where are people moving to and stuff's getting built?
So yeah, so it's so sad to have to compare to San Antonio to Austin because you're right, Austin was just a nightmare, right? Traffic wise, right? But yes, or at least we have our
It
two loops.
still is. There's no past tense to it. It still
Yeah,
is. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, San Antonio is now our traffic is getting horrible, right? Because we are redoing our 1604 loop, which is amazing. We were supposed to be estimated completion this year, and I think now they're pushing it to the end of 2026. But the section from I-90 west all the way to 35 east was all going to be redone, and it was going to be 4 lanes. We have flyovers now, which they just completed the westbound from on 1604. But to answer your question on the growth, we are seeing a lot more growth headed out to the northwest area.
Yeah.
Alamo Ranch was always built up before the development came out, where, I mean, they built these 4 lane roads way before anything was out there. So I at least give them some really huge credit on that. They planned accordingly for that. But I think what stagnated some of that growth is we had water issues. We've been in severe drought. And even with that July flood that we had, Kerrville still rested, just forever that went through that flood, and feel bad about. But all that water we got is gone already. Like it's sitting in the aquifer, but there's the aquifer levels are still dropping because we're having so much construction pulling more water out and more water. So that's the biggest issue we're trying to figure out right now. Um, but Northwest is what we're seeing, I think, is more growth. Now, the South, they're working on an arboretum project on the southeast side down off of 1604 and sort of I-37 heading out towards Corpus.
Yep.
And that should start opening some things up. We've seen $750,000 average new builds going on down there, Scott, which we would have never seen.
Wow.
So that's been interesting. So we're starting to see a little bit more money going to that route, trying to promote that and push that up, along with the development of the Brook City base with all the big industrial companies that are coming in as well there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I expect definitely it's on the south side too. This kind of bleeds into Corpus, even though it's about a 2 hour drive.
Hmm.
Is with the Harbor Bay being the new bridge in Corpus Christi opening up now to allow bigger ships, more manufacturing, more of the big tankers coming in to the Gulf of Corpus or the Port of Corpus Christi
Port of
now.
course. Yep.
Yes, so that's been redesigned, but makes it a little bit easier versus having to go to Houston. Straight shot up there, a lot less traffic, I would say, going
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah, yeah. 100% agree.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
um, oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask you where are you seeing short sales now as far as how different they are compared to when you first started
Mm.
doing them in 2010. I know it's night and day. Is it easier, harder, more systematized? I mean, is it just a simple path to follow like beforehand, or how's it working out for you?
Gosh, I don't think there's anything ever simple with short sales, right? So I love that enthusiasm, that positivity, Scott. But I will say this way, right now, I think what we are seeing is they're a lot more challenging. There's more difficultness to it. If Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac came out with a new guideline that they will do their valuations, but they won't ever share their minimum net requirements. So they can tell you, hey, we have a valuation at this, and they go, okay, cool. Minimum, you'll take 84% like normal, right? No, they actually say, no, that's not true. We can't tell you what our net is, right? So I think that's what's really frustrating. And I had a conversation with Freddie Mac representatives that were there at Dallas, and they sort of like brushed it in the rug. But it's the classic case, Scott, and I think we saw this in 2010. And when you and I first met, is that the banks were still trying to catch on. I think at the beginning, right when the market crashed in '09, everybody was just approving short sales because they knew they had to get rid of that loss, right? They could not pull that on their books for the asset. So they had to get rid of it. But then they started realizing all the fraud that was going on, the short sale flopping and stuff like that. So then they instituted, the Dodd-Frank and all that, and then that shored things up and it made it a lot more difficult with a lot more red tape. And I think that's what we're going through right now is there's so many new servicer delegated changes coming down the pipeline from these investors that we're hearing. And they're still fighting us on valuations because they still think, oh, well, our market up in DC, this is from Freddie, they were saying, our market up in DC and Baltimore, we're seeing great sellers markets. We're seeing sales appreciation. It should be that way in Bear County. And I'm like, no, that's not. We're actually seeing in certain areas up to almost 23% depreciation in the last
Wow,
two
yeah.
years. And they don't get it. So yeah, I think that's where we're more frustrated right now, but we do have a better system for our short sales. And thank God I've got three amazing processors that are really good on the phones and just staying involved. But the same escalation tactics that we have to use, the same like, hey, wake up, you're about to foreclose on something that you're going to lose a lot of money on. Those there still are issues that we are dealing with right now.
Now, are you just doing them for your own clients? Or are you doing them for other realtors and other parts of the state?
We are not doing for any other realtors. Yeah, I know we used to have that, and that third party processing was good. There are third party processors out there. I've interviewed one of them, and so far he's okay. I just want to see how's he doing in other states, right? Because we get a lot of referrals for short sales. I taught a class in Houston. I had like 5 or 6 agents. Hey, I have a short sale. Can you take it on? I'm like, well, technically our MLS is combined with HAR now, so we could, but I'm not an expert in that area, and I've always believed like if you start trying to go everywhere, then you're not an expert anymore. And then that's when things happen to fall through the cracks. So, yeah, to answer your question very longly, no, we don't do third party. It's just our own clients right now.
No problem. I'm glad to hear that actually. I'm actually glad to hear that
Oh,
because I know
good.
you were that's why you have less hair now because you were doing a lot for other people and stuff like
100%.
that. Yeah. Now, you're also investing in some stuff there. What do you like to invest in there in the San Antonio area?
Well, the last investment project I just closed on was in April, and I will say this, that it was a rehab that we wanted to do. We looked at it, it was just the best way to do it. And I still made money and I'm very blessed. God has been great. I've never lost on any of the investments, but I'm really just like the old adage, and all the investors always say, you always make your money when you buy, right? You have to buy right. And so, had I not countered the seller a couple more times, I think I would have lost money, but I kept digging and digging, right? So, what we've invested in a little bit of subject to, but not much, to be honest with you. The subject to has been a wild thing for us. Every time we get into it, we start realizing that look, I could buy it subject to and hold on to it, but there was other ways to get them out from underneath it that was going to help them a little bit better. And since I look at everything from a fiduciary standpoint of like, hey, look, here's your options. You can go this route as me being the buyer, and this is what's going to happen, or me selling it, and I think this is a better option for you, right? Because of the network and other
Sure.
investors. So boom, that's why we need other investors to reach out that want to do these deals because I'm not doing them. I have to be very honest. It's like it can either be an investor a buyer hat or a realtor hat. I can't go both, right? So yeah, I've sat in the sidelines, and I'll be honest with you, Sky, I want to buy more rentals because I had a multifamily property we lost money on. That was, and I forgot that was in like a REIT kind of deal. We did a bunch of limited partners and got together, and we just didn't verify the numbers like we should have. So I did lose money on that one, but all the other single
Yeah.
families we got into for rentals, it did well and we're cash flowing, but we have not done so lately because the interest rates on investment properties are so high. It just shot us out of the numbers.
Right. You're not the only ones talking about that. Now, that multifamily, how many units was it?
Eight units.
8 units. Okay. But that's the thing. San Antonio's multifamily market is been hit in the huevos, kicked in the
Huge.
huevos hugely because of you got a lot of overbuild. So stuff that's been existing is it's getting harder to get rent because people are moving into these other places for incentives. And then of course, depending on how you finance it with the floating rates, that's what killed the majority of these bigger ones is, hey, you had 3 years. If you didn't regentrify or do something different in 3 years, your rates are now doubled, and now you got to bring a million plus to the table, and most people were doing that.
Yep, and we've in fact, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually just arguing with an appraisal well, not arguing, having a discussion with an appraisal or appraiser that does a lot of these multifamilies because I have been helping a few investors out that got referred to us, and of course, when I'm looking at them, I have to look at them and analyze the numbers. None of these fourplexes that we've been looking at make any sense for what they're asking for, and these realtors have no clue. They just throw it up, and I'm going, all right, guys, I need your general ledger, I need your rent roll, I need to see what your P&L is. Oh, well, we don't have that. Okay. Well, then where you guys come up with the numbers? Well, here's some single families that sold that were close to that. I go, what? It doesn't even mix. And so I've been talking to a bunch of other investors on a back Facebook channel. The DSCR loans that are out there, they're not finding anything in San Antonio that actually works because everybody still thinks their properties are way more worth than what they are. And so the numbers aren't aligning. And I think that's what's going to eventually correct, except for one thing, Project Marvel. I think we're all waiting with bated breath to see if this Project Marvel Prop A and Prop B passes, because that's the majority of the area that we're seeing where these prices that they're asking for make no sense. They've already done numerous price reductions, and yet the numbers still don't make sense. Like even a cap rate of like 3%. Like who wants to pick that up? And I think that's what everybody's waiting on is once Project Marvel passes, if it gets passed, that's when you're going to have to see a wave of investors coming in because that whole downtown area is going to start booming.
So that's what, can you explain what that is? I was going to ask you what that is. So it's basically redevelopment of downtown, more residential, or what are you seeing with that?
Yeah, so Project Marvel in a nutshell, without getting too thick in the woods, is basically this number one, it's the Spurs basically getting out from underneath the AT&T Center, which used to be Frost Bank Center, and moving from the east side down back downtown where they should have been from day one, which they were. They're at the Alamo Dome, but they're building a brand new arena downtown, right across the street from Alamo Dome. They're gonna renovate the Alamo Dome with I think it was like $1 billion worth of renovations to make it way more updated, way more uh, desirable for big venues to come in and hopefully maybe an NFL team later down the line. And then just build a Hemisphere Park, just like a downtown like center of commerce where you've got all these bars and restaurants and everything walkable right there. And that's what San Antonio needs. Like San Antonio is the seventh largest city in the nation, yet we still act like we're Corpus Christi, without the water. Like we're just not thinking big enough. And this is what Project Marvel will do. It's amazing the issues that we're pushing back on because they're always worried about gentrification, right? Well, what are you going to do with everybody that, can't afford their homes anymore? Well, if you look at San Antonio, there's a lot of investors that started to clean some of the streets up and rehab some of these homes. But then there's a lot of the older homes that have just been dilapidated and not
Yeah.
maintained or taken care of. And so there's gotta be a give right here. So that's the issue that we're fighting on right now is a lot of people want to vote against it because they're like, the Spurs don't need a third stadium, in 30 years. And they're actually not true about that. There's a reason that, Frostbank never worked out, the Frostbank Center. But that's what's really going to happen in that shows a revitalization of downtown San Antonio to make us a core downtown, city that everyone wants to go hang out at again.
Yeah, I mean, trying to get to the Alamo Dome, we went and saw Guns N' Roses there last year, and it was a parking nightmare
Yeah,
trying to find a parking spot to go to this big stadium. AT&T or the where they're playing it now, it's pretty easy to park at, but there's not a lot around it
that's
too.
right.
So yeah, whereas when you compare it to like other parts of the country, like Minneapolis, great downtown theme, a lot of stuff going on. Even though the commercial real estate is in trouble in a lot of cases, there's still a lot of bars and restaurants and stuff like to go to really take advantage of what's going on at the highlight there with the Vikings and the Twins and the Timberwolves there in the Target Center.
Same with Indianapolis. I was just up
Yeah.
there 2 weeks ago. I was blown away how much Indy was just redeveloped. I go, wow, this is exactly what we need. And yet Indy's we're bigger than Indy. So why are we don't have that, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, part of it is too, they probably need to get out of the cold a little sooner than us with our mild winters down here. So,
that is true that we did notice walkability was much nicer in those easier temps. So yeah,
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 exactly. Where you've done a great job really standing out and being consistent for 15 years,
thank you.
right? And brought on market and stuff like that and really done stuff, but you've also been kind of lean and mean as well too, not having too big a team, bringing on folks that you trust, and then doing a really great job of really staying in your niche and stuff like that. Where do you see a lot of realtors, new realtors, or realtors that have been around for a little while, make mistakes, not evolving, not engaging other things? Where do you see people really screwing up?
You know what? I have, thank you for that. That's a huge compliment coming from you because I know you know a lot of agents, right? The one thing, Scott, that I think I'm very blessed with is you're right. We stayed very true to our core. Exposed Homes really had a mission statement behind it. It's basically exposing clients to a full service and all the facts, right? All the options. So we're not a sales company. We're a consultant, consultative company, right? So we've found, and I'm very blessed that Diana, my partner, came on, and made her a partner because I've known her for over 14 years, and she came from medical sales, and she had the same just dedication to helping people. She has a heart that pours out, and it was working perfect. It was like once she came on, it worked out well. I think to answer your question on why other or what new agents or even mid-level, like 5 or 6 year agents have to worry about is that, yeah, don't let the shiny objects get dangled in front of you and take you away from what you really know is your core business. Stay consistent with your database, stay in touch with your people, and don't try to grow to the sake of growing because I am seeing so many agents that have large teams brag about their, 100 million that they sold this year and all the units they sold. But then if you break it down, productivity and profit per agent, their profitability is less than 15%, if that. And I go, well, then what's the whole point? Like, we don't, I've never been about like, look at all our sales stats. I'm more like, hey, look how many families we can help. And we've done that with a hands-on approach. And I really think, and again, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. The real estate market will never get rid of the realtor. I know we've got ChatGPT and AI and Zillow taking a lot of, making the consumers think the realtor isn't needed. But I think the realtors are still needed for that consultation, the almost being a counselor, a therapist, and a lot of stuff because it's a very emotional transaction. And then honestly, just getting the human touch interpretation of what the data is and what it's there, and then really knowing how to guide the clients. And so I think what's going to happen is single agents that do this without a support staff for contract to close or are just a showing agent, things like that. That's where I think the single agent is going to start getting really sort of smacked around in the next couple of years because they just can't do it all. And now because of the cost of the staying in business and the cost of being in business, you'd have to do more volume to stay in business, which means then you can't give that service and it's eventually going to be a house of cards, right? So that's my
Hmm.
opinion.
No, it makes a lot of sense there when you look at that. Over 50% of realtors only never even sell one house last year.
Hmm.
You got to market, you got to learn how to do things in a different market. And we've seen the market change, obviously. But you've also, technology can be a great thing and help you be more productive and do some things, but there's also a learning curve. And I think back to the days I was doing a little bit of research back when we first met, how I was doing some marketing for some Betty Blue hairs, going out and walking houses and taking some video and looking back, and those Betty Blue hairs, well, some have passed away, but a lot of them are no longer in business anymore because they're like, oh no, they didn't retire, they're doing something else. You know what I mean? And trying to be a jack of all trades means you're a master of none. Well,
That's right.
you've been a master of your craft and honed it, and actually more of the short sale experts are no longer doing them anymore. They stopped doing them for a while, right?
Yeah, and I know we always are learning and always staying in growth mode and just being humble about it. And it is hard because some people will come in like, "Oh man, you're the master of short sales." I said, "Man, I don't even like to hear that." And don't ever call me the king. All right, we'll go
Yeah.
that. That's a whole nother thing, right? Uh, because yeah, I just I also believe that yeah, if you don't continue to grow and by educating yourself and then really stopping and putting a little bit more emphasis on how to sharpen your sword as you go, then you're going to eventually wear yourself out, right? And I'm guilty of that as much as the next guy because me and Diana would get super busy, we'd have 30, 40 files going, and it's just the two of us as licensed agents on our team, and we're like, man, I don't know if we can keep this up, right? And then we would finally get a dull moment and like, oh, so we're still doing the up and down like any other real estate agent would, but I think we're getting better at figuring out a leverage and systems to solve that. So
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably get this question all the time. I'm going to ask it there. What do you see as the average time frame for a short sale to be approved? from start to finish? Once the time it gets listed on the MLS and you start reaching on after you send in that authorization to release information form to the bank.
Okay, so this is a good one because I see a lot of, so in our MLS we have three different positions. Short sale has been applied for, short sale has been approved, or seller has or asked for quality. I forget the third one. It just makes no sense. So what I will say with ours, and I'll be very, this is where I got to be vulnerable. Sometimes they still take 5 to 6 months from start to finish. We just closed one that took us a year, and
Wow.
it was because what happened is each single short sub file is always going to be unique. It's always going to be different. And that particular one that took us over a year, it was already marketed by another agent. I love her to death, great agent, but she also had a team, and their team did not market it correctly. It was a three bedroom, not a two bedroom. So it sat for 6 months when had that been just deemed right, I think they would have been able to sell and get out from underneath it. But for so then when you take something over like that that's sat for so long and then made price jumps, then the buyers start seeing like, well, what's going on? How lower can it go? And we went into contract on that thing three different times and people would back out. Well, there's something else that came through, right? So I would say the trick of this, and if anybody is going to do short sales out there, we like to use investors to start the process early. We know that that offer is probably not going to get accepted, but if we get an investor that comes in and says, hey, um, we'll buy this house at this percent, right? Now we argue with the investor all the time, like, look, I'm not submitting an offer that's 50% of value. Like, we're just not going to do it because that destroys my credibility with these lenders and these servicers, right? So we'll go through and say, hey, I know you don't want to buy it at this, but can you at least say you will for now? That gets us started because most of these servicers won't even open the file without a complete short sale packet, and a complete short sale packet has to have a contract. So that's what we at least start the process with before you even get it on MLS. So we can at least get it there. And of course, if they need MLS marketing, we throw it on the market real quick and we still market it for what we think it should sell for, which is retail price. But in the meantime, we're working it behind the scenes, which costs us a lot more time and effort because now we don't have a guaranteed paycheck there.
No,
But at least it helps us accelerate it for the buyers that really want these properties. And I can always tell everybody with confidence, typically, guys, give us 60 days, I should get this done. Because by then we already know what the minimum net needs to be. And we have a guideline of where we need to be at to make that file work.
I love it. And actually using verifiable contracts, not copy paste like somebody up north did.
Oh, man, you brought that up.
Can't help it,
Yes,
man.
I
It's
know, I
when
know.
you look
It's
into the when you actually read into
oh,
it, you had to be like me and say,
yes.
what is this girl doing? There's a short sale agent queen up in Dallas who was basically copy pasting contracts and proof of funds without the investors knowing about it. And
Mm,
when you look at all the work that she did over 3 years or something like that, and then they made very little. She was basically a target for somebody when you could easily make them a phone call. Hey, are you an investor? Can I get you to put an offer on something for me?
yep. And
It's
that's the way to do it. That's why yeah, you're right. When I did read the indictment and stuff like that, I go, I knew about her, right? She had taken a couple from us, and no ill will towards anybody. But
no.
you're right. There's good ways to do it, and there's not so good ways to do it.
It's
So
just pure laziness on that aspect of things is really what it comes down to. Well, we know you're not lazy.
no.
You're lean, mean, lean being short sale real estate machine there. And you're a fellow podcaster. Tell us about the podcast you got rocking and rolling with your buddy out
Oh
of
man.
your buddy.
All right, I'm gonna get a good quick shout out to, but thank you for that. I know it's so funny because we actually took a month off, and in the podcast world, yeah, you don't do that, right? It's called Brotastic Voyage, and it was me and my best buddy. He's in the army, he's active army, and so we literally would realize that every day we were on Marco Polo having discussions about life, being married, having kids, and dealing with his frustration out, being a military family, moving all the time, and my frustration in the real estate. We just were like, why don't we just start a podcast and talk about it? So we did. Of course, ours was very lighthearted. I didn't promote it very well. I'm not like you, Scott. You do such a great job at everything you do. I honestly, I'll be honest with you, Scott. I was embarrassed for the longest time because I was just opening my mind and being silly with it, and it wasn't really about real estate. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I want clients to go on there and watch this guy because this guy's making jokes about everything, right? But anyway, we had fun with it, and it started taking off like crazy. So we're like, cool, let's keep going. So
Yeah, he's got over 70 episodes. We'll put a link in the description for you guys there. But I think it's gives people listening to hear your mind and build rapport. That's because people, I think it's not the KW sign or the Century 21 sign, it's the Josh Boggs side of things. That's the thing that I think most people want to identify with is that personal rapport with somebody, not some AI bot who's going to list it and help them find a house or sell it. You still got to have that personal touch of things. And that's I look at AI. We've used AI to clone myself for my investors and stuff like that to ask questions, which has been very, very helpful. Complete
Sure.
cloning. You ask questions 24/7. But the point being, like you said, is you got to have sometimes people need to come to Jesus meeting. Like I know you want,
Mhm.
I know you want, a $600,000 budget and you only work at Starbucks and collect cans on the side, but let's have some realistic ideas of what you can afford and can't afford, what's available, what's not available. And your first time home doesn't mean to be your forever home in a lot of cases too, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, so much preach it. Because I tell you what, we did lose a couple buyers that were wanting to go for grand slams on their first buyer. Like they never even had a home and they're looking for 700,000. I go, guys, I know you say you make the income now. I really don't think this is good for you, right? And that's not for a realtor would normally say. And sure enough, they ended up going somewhere else, and then we found out they went all the way through the deal, and their loan wasn't approved because there was other things going on. And we're like, man, see if you could just stay within your means. And I think getting on my soapbox, and I do say expose homes, I'll just tell you how it is. I think number one that I'm seeing now is we need such a gigantic sweep of financial education in this
Yeah.
country and people to pay attention to financial understanding of your priorities of your debts and where your budget should be. What's a budget, right? I mean, we're seeing that so many people don't even know what the hell they're doing, and it's scary to me. So I think that's one thing that would be a pandemic that needs to be fixed.
We were looking at a deal a few months back, and the guy couldn't afford something, couldn't make his mortgage payment on a note we were looking at with a student of ours, and he sent in his financials to my student, and turns out he could pay it. He just was losing all that money to OnlyFans accounts.
Wow. Okay. His budget for his OnlyFans was off the charts, huh?
And his wife was spending a ton of money on OnlyFans too.
Whoa.
I was like,
Damn.
wow. I'm like,
Okay.
okay.
I heard some agents are going that route too.
Yeah.
So
Well, they can't sell houses, so they got to sell something.
sell something. I mean, we always made a joke about that, Scott, 'cause it's funny you brought that up because exposed homes, everybody's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
what homes do you expose? I'm like, we should create an OnlyFans. I'm like, okay, no, then that's putting us in a space we don't want to be in. So yeah,
Well,
no.
there's a few. I mean, San Antonio as big a city is still probably the tightest knit real estate community I've ever seen. The
Yes.
networking and knowing folks all in, and there's a few of those gals that they like to the poll before they got an agent, being an agent and stuff like that. You're like, okay, that's if that's what you're used to sell. Hopefully you're still in business these days. Who knows?
You know what? God bless them. Somebody had to do it, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, instead of this is a beautiful bedroom, this is a beautiful video area for you.
This is great for
This
your
is bright.
OnlyFans.
Look at all that natural lighting.
No shit, Scott. One time I did sell. We didn't know this until after we went under contract. I was actually selling with a buddy of mine. He was single, by the way. We were selling a porn star's house, and we did not know it. We never met with her, but it was weird that they wanted to meet with us. And before we closed, we still never met with them. But then we found out later we found their stash of videos. And with a quick Google, we found out who it was. And I don't remember her name now, but supposedly she was some big porn star. And we're like, what the hell? Like, on all the movies were of the house. So I still make a joke with my buddy today. I go, hey, dude, have you made any movies yet? So,
Did your
um,
wife handle that listing?
no, yeah. No, I helped them buy it. So we have not
Okay.
sold it, and I didn't have the porn star as a client. Just, I was representing my buddies, but we found that out later. Go, this is interesting. Wow. So, yeah,
Yeah, good times. I had a buddy who was an accountant that the doing that for a lady down in Miami. She wanted to pay singles and other forms of payment, which is kind of hilarious. But
that's good.
good
Oh,
times, good times. Well, hey
all right.
man, I know you got a busy rest of the day ahead of you. Thank you so much for coming on. What's the best way for those that are listening here or watching this to connect with you, to reach out to you and say, hey, I need to buy, or I need to sell, or I need to invest in the San Antonio market?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for that shout out. Number one, exposehomes.com. That's our website. We always tell everybody we have a pretty good contact. Just contact us. It goes right to my team. You can get a hold of me that way. Of course, always follow me on Facebook. It's Josh Boggs, or Josh M. Boggs. And then on Instagram, Josh Boggs. That's it. Super easy. And those would be the best way to reach out. That way we do monitor those pretty well.
Yeah, they do a really great job, and your marketing is also spot on with some stuff you've been doing lately. So thank you so much. Give my best to your better half, and
Likewise.
Steph says hello as well for
Yes,
you.
tell Steph said hi. Okay, I know I've not seen you guys forever, so I'll have to come up and see you guys
Well,
soon.
maybe we meet in the middle or somewhere at some
Okay,
point.
I'm down with that. All right.
Sounds good.
I
All
appreciate it,
right,
Scott.
guys. Yeah, no problem. All right, everybody. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Like I said, if you're investing or interested in San Antonio real estate, this is the guy that you need to follow. This is the guy you need to reach out to. And I think San Antonio is still one of the best bang for the bucks compared to other markets out there. You just got to understand where you're buying, and he's the guy. He is the sensei. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of San Antonio realtors to hold your hand on that path to success. So go out, take some action, everybody.